Hi, I'm David King from the Alt Weekly. I'm joined by Katie Cusack and Tony from the Albany Center Galleries and Rachel as well. Thank you so much, guys, for coming. I know we're here to talk about some of the touring you've been doing, or plans to do more touring of the murals in Albany. And I wanted to get started just asking about how it all came about. I know Albany Center has a lot going on. So how did this project come together?
Yeah, so the Capitol Walls program started about 3 years ago with a conversation between the Parking Authority, the Albany Barn, and the gallery to beautify the city and kind of work with local artists to kind of leave their mark. So it's a 3-year kind of process, but our first one happened about a year later. So we worked with artist Mike Conlon to do these large bluebirds as they fly into downtown Albany. And then from there was a lot of good feedback and a response to it. So then we started planning. And then last year we ended up doing 5 murals in downtown Albany, with Rachel Baxter being one of the artists, Sylvie, Kara, an artist named Hellbent. So actually, yeah, and Rachel, you did one. Yeah, so Rachel has done 2 murals total in downtown Albany, out in the community space. And the goal is to keep bringing more art and kind of visuals to the city, but expand it beyond to go throughout the capital region.
Yeah.
And Rachel, what's the appeal of working on that sort of canvas? I mean, do you normally work on outdoor art, larger forms?
I had never done a mural before. Tony approached me, and I've always liked painting like really large scale paintings, but like on a canvas. And so definitely was intimidating when he first kind of approached me on it, and then he has a way of convincing people that they could do whatever they think about. So yeah, I did the first mural, and as soon as I got that first one done, I was already like itching to do another. And just through that process, I mean, it affected my artistic process. It changed how I view how I paint, but I also like met so many people, just other artists in the community that were also painting murals, but people walking by, people in the community, like the immediate community, like wondering what I'm doing, if I'm allowed to be there. But it was an awesome experience, and I'm really happy to see that there's like more plans in the works.
And what's it like now to be able to just sort of go through town and see art in such a big...
It's wild. Yeah, it's cool. Sometimes I get off the wrong exit on purpose just to say what up to my mural and make sure it's still there, I guess.
I look at it every day too.
It's cool, yeah. And to like meet people that maybe have seen the mural before we've actually met, and then kind of connect the dots. Like, oh, you did that. And I'm like, yeah. It's like, it feels really cool that it was well received, and that the community wants more projects like this. So.
And did you come up with your own concept for the piece, or was this more of like all the pieces had a general theme, or how does that work in terms of the creative process?
That was all Baxter.
Okay.
That's not true. There's definitely a lot of conversations. We both knew that the placement of the murals was going to be an important kind of factor, and making the murals make sense for where they were being painted. So particularly the one that I did on Water Street references the Hudson River that runs parallel to the mural itself. It's in close proximity, so I was kind of drawing inspiration from that. The geography of the place. And in the first mural, I was so intimidated I didn't know where to start. And I was like, all right, kind of just look through some drawings and doodles, and we're talking about, the inspiration for the public art. And yeah, definitely was a collaborative kind of thing.
I think collaboration is always like part of it, just because you want to be mindful of like where it's going, how people are going to interact with it, and just being aware of once it's out to the world, what happens to it, how do people perceive it. But that's part of the conversation, which is awesome.
So years ago now, I wrote this article following around these two guys who liked looking at public art, liked looking at graffiti and tagging and all this stuff, and I followed them into the cold storage building down by 77 and the Wellington when it was... And I didn't think about at the time the idea that these guys were sort of doing it for the thrill, and then they discovered this work and sort of take it. And obviously it created quite a bit of consternation with the artist community and the people who'd done it. So I'm wondering, how do you sort of balance the idea of like tagging and public work arts being sort of this act of defiance or independent thing with bringing it, the arts community together and getting sanction and all that stuff. I mean, do you still feel you're capturing that sort of like, hey, look, everyone, sort of vibe, or is it?
Yeah, I think it's like a fine line, because you wanted the artwork to be authentic,
right? And
people that are tagging or leaving their mark, they're leaving their message without permission, without approval, and sometimes you can get in trouble for that. So we don't necessarily encourage that, but we also want those artists to say, you know what, you can actually get commissioned to do work and use your skill set in a way to where you might not go to jail or get fined. So the goal is to help educate also younger artists as well, to say there's an opportunity to leave your mark, but in a creative way, and making sure you're covered all your bases.
Yeah.
But the storage building is like a phenomenal space. There's just rawness and realness in there.
Yeah.
I think that's what people look for. So yeah, it's important though.
And I watched the video of your first tour, which happened 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
And it was raining and pouring, but you still had quite a few people out there with umbrellas walking through downtown Albany. And you have another one coming up. So what do you expect? And how's the word been getting out? I mean, have you gotten a response?
Yeah, so we don't have a lot to advertise, so really it's just word of mouth,
right.
People talking about it, people seeing the murals themselves, and then they want to know, who is it? Why did they create this? So the first one started off with a group called Local X Design, where we partnered with them, the Barn, the Parking Authority, to just really bring something unique to the area and give people kind of an in-depth conversation. And the next one will take place August 4th, which will be an afternoon one. So then we want to tie it into local restaurants so people can stop, have a coffee,
very cool.
Stop and have a beer or wine, and just kind of go through these murals and kind of just make it into everyday living. Art should be everywhere, and it should be part of our casual conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Rachel, we were talking a little bit earlier that you've taken up residency in the church in Troy.
Yeah.
And you were one of the first. So what's that been like, pioneering that space? It's been awesome.
I saw a photo of the space kind of before even the owner really knew what the space was going to become. It was just this vacant church. It has like an adjoining school with these empty classrooms. And like as an artist, I see like a big empty room with like big windows and walls, and I'm like, this is like a dream space. Yeah. So I got in there a little over a year ago. There's two or three of us there, and just kind of organically formed into this sort of artist collective now. There's 13 or 14 artists working there.
Wow.
It's a really awesome space. It's really cool just to kind of go in and work in my studio, but then be able to pop in around the corner and see what my neighbors are doing. And it also has a really awesome event space that we've been trying to get things going in. Actually, two artists that are there now, Kelsey Renko and Michael Valaket, are curating a show called Being Alive, and it's going to be in the church space. It's a small group show on July 15th. Let me check my cheat sheet. July 13th, 6 to 9. I can't read my handwriting. But you can follow the Church Troy on Instagram and Facebook and get the appropriate date.
Sure.
So yeah, it's been really awesome. It basically just snowballed into this really awesome creative space. So
how long have you been working in Troy?
I've been in the Capital Region for like 11 years. I moved to Troy 2 years ago, and I got the studio a year and a couple months ago.
I mean, we've sort of documented a lot about how the creative scene has, at least with music, has really taken off in ways it hadn't before lately. But I feel like the art scene has always been pretty strong in Troy. There are a number of galleries. But I imagine now with the city, obviously, the last 5-6 years becoming so vibrant, it must be a different thing in some ways than it was before. I mean, are you running into new faces and new...
Yeah, it's crazy because it has this feeling of like this small community. Like I feel like I know everybody, but then somehow every weekend, every show, I meet somebody new. So it has like this freshness to it also that I really love. It's a great place to be an artist. I love it there.
Yeah. And just the church itself it's cool to see how far it's come, because I feel like I was there for like a Half Moon Market or something a long time ago, like maybe, well, not a long time ago, it was probably in the winter, and I'm like, it was ages ago.
It was probably October. We had like a maker's market
exactly.
with vendors in the church space, and then we had open studios like coinciding with it.
And like in the middle of the whole market was sort of like a pop-up gallery, and it was cool. And then, like you said, you got to go and see, and it's really cool to see how many different artists have set themselves up in the church too, and like such a variety of people and mediums, and it's just like really cool and just like going from 3 people to, would you say 14 is like pretty significant, and like shows how necessary it was to have that kind of space for artists in the area.
Absolutely. And we have plans for kind of even growing larger, doing some renovations in some underutilized spaces like on the property. So we're hoping that, because you're absolutely right, I feel like how quickly and how organically it happened, it just goes to show that there's a need for more place. There's so many creative people.
Artists keep hustling. Keep hustling.
Yeah, it's really cool. And like even in Albany too, like I know is like a DJ TGIF like set up his like urban arts gallery in Albany, so like that's still like those kinds of things are happening, and those shows are so like unique and diverse. Absolutely. And it's really cool to just see things keep popping up, but trying to keep the public eye on everything when it's like in different directions is kind of a struggle. But what other like mural type projects, gallery
so
things?
For the gallery and mural projects, or even new artists coming into the scene, to me, I think it's awesome because people might say there's nothing to do or there's not much going on, but you could look at a lot of artistic things, and it's like every night, every weekend, there's like 3, 4, 5 things going on.
Right.
So I think part of the conversation is like building awareness for it and just letting people know there is like a lot of creativity taking place. You just have to like sometimes do the work, because creatives can't pay to always advertise and reach the people. So it is good to have places like this that offer voices for artists. But yeah, the gallery's upcoming few months, we've been busy writing grants to help fund projects, but we're going to be taking part in the Black Arts and Cultural Festival. And again, this is a way for the gallery to go outside of the gallery walls, because some people might not want to walk into a space that feels very clean and very formal, even though it is just a very clean space. Some people just don't feel comfortable walking into galleries or museums, so our goal is to make it accessible and just go to the community. So that'll take place on August 4th, which will go to the Empire State Plaza. We'll do a community mural and probably showcase between 15 to 20 artists that are showcasing and talking about Black arts and culture and heritage, and uplifting messages to share with other people. And then that same day we'll also do the mural tour during the afternoon. So we're going to be in 2 places at once. So we're trying to coordinate a lot of those logistics. And then the night before, on the 3rd, we actually are doing a show called Creations, Connections, and Collections. And the idea is that we're going to have artists, 50 members of the gallery, invite 50 non-members of the gallery to be part of a show. So we should have hopefully around 100 artists in that show.
Wow.
But again, it's to like build the bridge together to connect people. And then there's collectors that after collecting for many years, they want to donate their work so they could buy new work, because after they've been collecting for maybe 20 years, they have no wall space. So the goal is now, sometimes art changes with the flavor of somebody's house, but now they can actually buy new work by upcoming artists too. So, and that's just in August, so we're cruising on that. And if all goes well, we'll have 2 murals that start in Albany, in downtown. Those artists aren't, information isn't released yet, but eventually it'll be, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, it'll be announced, and the locations and the themes surrounding the work. And the goal with those, they're probably a 1.5 year long conversations, and now they're actually going to take place, where one's probably going to be 100 feet in length, which will talk about arts and culture and diversity in one piece. So the goal is, the more that we keep doing, and if we are able to get more funding, then we're able to bring more art to the community and pay artists to do the work.
Absolutely.
I think that's like number one goal, is like paying creative people. That excites me.
Sounds good to me.
So just basic for the next tour, what are your recommendations for people who are coming along? How should they prepare themselves? Other than an umbrella in case.
So the first tour we had, we limited it to 30 tickets, just because we were trying to work out any kinks that there might be. Going to 7 locations, we're mindful of like if people sign up and they're like walking in the road, we want to make sure they're safe. So like sidewalks are wide enough. So there's like the logistics side of how we're planning it. So we probably will keep it to around 30 to 35 people. But it's just signing up ahead of time. This one, we're going to try to include like a drink voucher and hors d'oeuvres. So there might be our refreshments. And then we're going to pay artists to be at the conversation to talk. So the first one was free. This one will probably charge around $20. But then with that, you get food, a drink, and then we were able to pay artists to be there. And then hopefully we can turn it into something that happens maybe once a month, every other month, depending on availability and weather. And then I already see it in my mind, for example, with Rachel here, we could go to Rachel's wall. People can have a conversation with Rachel for 1 hour. So then it's kind of more of a surprise. It would be more of like an intimate conversation instead of maybe a 10-minute overview of the project. It could be, a one-on-one with the artists, and then maybe that's only 10 or 15 people.
Cool.
But to me, all of those things are important because it helps the artist kind of explore what they're working on. And then every time I feel like it also just kind of lets people know that are out in the community that there are these things that can happen. So conversation is important.
Like an inspiring conversation for you too, probably, just to learn from what people are getting out of your projects.
Yeah, exactly. Like we kind of gave 7-8 minute spiels about our mural, and I realized I was getting really good questions from people, and then it was raining downpouring, so we got to keep it moving. But yeah, I think that would be a really, really awesome kind of opportunity, because as the artist, you're in your head a lot, and you think that you know what people are getting from it, but usually I like to hear what other people have to say rather than telling them. So let's do it, Tom.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
And Rachel, what's your next project? What are you working on at the moment?
Let's see. I just finished one, so I just did my third mural at the CoLab. That's opening up a collaborative workspace right on Broadway. So they're having their soft opening this Friday.
Tomorrow.
And then word on the street that space is free to use for the month of July until they get all the other pieces in place. So that was really cool. So I just finished that. I'm going to be an artist in residence at the brand new Elizabeth Murray Artist Residency program that is being put on by Colorworks.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is super exciting. They just launched it. There's people there right now, actually. So I'm going to be there the last week of July working. And then, let's see, I've got a show at Third Eye Gallery in Hoosick Falls with a handful of other local artists. That's going to be really cool. It's called In Bloom. That's August 4th also. We have to clone ourselves, Tony. There's so many things going on. And just when I'm doing these murals, I love doing it, but it does take me out of my studio, so I'm kind of excited to get back and start making more paintings in that space again. So, yeah.
And possibly a commission coming up soon for me.
And possibly a commission coming up soon. And I also teach too, so the semester is going to be here before I know it. So. Yeah.
And people who are interested in your work should check out the church. Is that basically?
Yeah. I love having kind of people coming to visit, little studio visits scheduled, or we just did an open studios. We're trying to do those every couple months. I have a website, rachelabaxter.com, and email me. Yeah. I'm on Instagram. Yeah. However, I love just hearing from people if you have any questions. So.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for coming in. And I really plan to go to the next tour, so I look forward to it. And
cool.
Albany's going to be one of those cities where they're Instagram famous for their mural spots, I
definitely think that the region has potential, especially with a lot of buildings that have just wide open wall spaces. But if people want to share walls that they think deserve a mural, they could email maybe you guys or us. Because
tag the artist if you're taking pictures of these murals.
That's great.
That actually leads me to another question. I mean, just in doing research for some of these articles about tagging and such, some cities do get this sort of tourism industry of the great taggers. I mean, not really, not like they're spending money or whatever, but they're coming through because of the spaces. Yeah. Are you aware of Albany drawing folks like that? Or, I mean, I know Montreal and New York, we're stuck between, but do you think it's just generally...
I think that with the murals and even with things like the Breathing Lights projects, that puts Albany in the capital region on like a larger scale as far as people like paying attention to it. So I think it's going to get there. For example, one of the murals that we did in downtown Albany, working with an outside the region artist, but the goal was to work with internationally and local artists to help uplift our artists as well. But places like Juxtapose magazine did a story on it, and they, like 1 million followers talking about Albany having a cool piece of art. And the goal is once people hear that, then they can say, they also have these other pieces of art that are really awesome. So the goal is to like bring all of those together. Just like Proctor's or Palace or any place that's bringing in kind of outside acts, like people want to go see those things as well, and then you also support the local, but it's a mixture of all of that. And I think people, when they travel, they see things in Philadelphia, Montreal, wherever they're going around the world. I think our region has that potential too, because people are like chomping at the bit to go out and just explore the area. So
feels like it's that snowball effect.
Absolutely.
At least I hope.
Absolutely. And as long as it's authentic, I think that's what will help keep it going. You know, none of the jolly old cheer kind of thing. Just because, you know, art should reflect the times, and that's not always the case.
And the space as well. Like
Absolutely.
something that's unique to this area and, you know.
What makes it special.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, and we'll see you soon. I'm sure everyone should check out Albany Center Galleries on Facebook, and is there anyone? And and MySpace.
No, we can do Instagram is good. I have to. I'm sorry, I just love MySpace. But Instagram is good too.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.